6:44. Now, he led the investigation into one of the worst mass school shootings in the nation. This morning, Daniel Jewis sharing his perspective from the very dark days of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting.
And the mass casualty incident in Uvalde's Robb Elementary School are obviously getting compared. And he spoke with KENS 5's Marvin Hurst about how the investigation impacted him personally and if we should be using the suspect's name. Marvin, this is obviously an ongoing debate, especially after every mass shooting. You see it discussed on social media.
Absolutely. Dan Jewis has some definite opinions about using the shooter's name, but he really says that's a media, law enforcement, and honestly, a community conversation. And it was very clear from speaking with him that you don't investigate these kinds of cases without scars that may last a lifetime.
Should we talk about the suspects because they're key to what happened?
Very early on, we stopped using the suspect's name, even though obviously we needed to continue to talk about the suspect. We have a legal requirement to actually report who the suspect is, because he's been killed. However, we don't necessarily have to mention his name over and over again. People can find out his name if they really need that. But we can talk about the behavior of the suspect and the background of the suspect, because that's important for people to be able to relate to, not only so that we can continue to gather more information on him, but so that people can recognize that behavior in their own circles. The names that we really should focus on are the names of those victims. If I'm one of those loved ones listening to reports and I hear that shooter's name over and over, and I'm not hearing my loved one, whether it's the day after or it's 10 years afterwards, I think it just tells me that our priorities need a little bit of shifting.
How do mass shootings impact you personally? Was there a personal effect for you?
It's the most challenging case emotionally that I ever worked on, but it's also the most rewarding case that I worked on. And I think a lot of that has to do with how you see the world before you go into something like that. I know at the end of the day that I didn't save any lives at Sandy Hook. And if I simply had to deal with the stuff that I saw and experienced, that would be extremely hard. And so the fact that I can go around the country and share those lessons learned and talk with people and feel like I'm doing some good to save lives in the future, that to me is extremely therapeutic. And I'm extremely honored to be able to do that.
Even though this is not heading into a criminal court, Robb Elementary School is the case that none of these investigators will ever forget, just like Uvalde. On Monday, most of the world had never heard of our neighbors and their quiet, clean, wonderful neighborhood, but today, no one can believe what happened.